As a rabbinical student in Jerusalem, where Rabbi Wattenmaker and I were students together at the Hebrew Union College, I remember being confused once when someone told me the high holidays were coming. I was confused because I knew I had a lot to learn about the Jewish calendar. Confused about how our people have a hybrid lunar solar calendar, different from the secular calendar and also different from the Muslim calendar. I was confused because we were still learning about the different Torah readings, including double Torah portions and different cycles of Torah reading, including the triennial cycle. I was mostly confused because they told me the high holidays were approaching and it was April. In Israel, this season is sometimes called the secondary high holidays, from Passover, which concluded on Wednesday, to Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day, which begins next week. The following week has both Yom HaZikaron and Yom HaAtzmaut, Israeli Memorial Day and Israeli Independence Day. If we want to extend it just a little deeper into May, we could add Lag BaOmer, Yom Yerushalayim, Jerusalem Day, and Shavuot, our Festival of Weeks. All of these take place on our calendar before Memorial Day. It is a packed time in our sacred calendar, the secondary high holidays. You know as well as I do that April is a month that just feels busier. Passover, Easter, Ramadan, spring breaks, opening day, taxes. If you want to go even deeper, and these are really, really important today, April 14th is National Pecan Day. It's National Reach as High as You Can Day. I'm not making this up. It's National Dolphin Day. It's National Pan American Day. And this is true, it's National Ex-Spouse Day. So I have no idea how you celebrate that one. So. And while our Torah ignores National Reach as High as You Can Day, the Torah's emphasis on a calendar has been one of the guiding and stabilizing components of Judaism. How important is the calendar to our people? As the medieval commentator Rashi alludes at the very start of his Torah commentary, in his response to Genesis chapter 1, verse 1, the first mitzvah given directly to the Jewish people in the Torah is the obligation to create a calendar. In a few weeks, we'll read a section in the book of Leviticus that says, "These are the set times of God, the sacred occasions, Mikra Kodesh, which you shall celebrate each at its important time." The Torah goes into precise detail on when we are to observe the festivals throughout the year, and there is a complete list of each festival with an extra emphasis on the importance of Shabbat in the Jewish calendar. And each of our actions, the way we mark time, is central to our existence as a people. Rabbi Fred Morgan of Temple Beth Israel in Melbourne, Australia writes, "The calendar represents a continuum in Jewish thought, the creative response of the people to circumstances that have impacted on our experiences throughout history. In uncertain times that tested our resilience and challenge any idea of normalcy, we are blessed to have a firm calendar with which to observe those Modeh Adonai, those fixed times of God." I know for so many at Beth Am, during the early days of COVID, it was the Jewish calendar that helped maintain order despite the chaos. We stream in each Shabbat, each Friday night and Saturday morning. These seasons, even despite the chaos, brought about the holidays at their appointed times. And it's wonderful that as a community, we have added to our calendar. We continue to use it as a guiding force. The modern Jewish holidays that I mentioned before are for many as important and meaningful as the classic festivals. We mourn on Tisha B'Av and on Holocaust Remembrance Day. We celebrate the miracle of the Maccabees and the miracle of Israel. And we also continue to add to the sacred occasions of God through consecrations, through bar and bat mitzvah, through confirmations, and through memorial service. These actions, as Professor Abigail Ehrman of the Jewish Theological Seminary writes, remind us that we are part of something greater, an unfolding story, a historical past and a religious tradition that extends to our current moment and far into the future. As we're in our second high holidays, and this Shabbat is the one between Passover and Holocaust Remembrance Day, let me conclude tonight with a short story by Moshe Goldstein. In the days preceding Passover, the war was nearing its end. The relentless droning of American aircraft filled the German skies, following by the whistling hail of bombs that pounded Muldorf railway complex into rubble. Spared of destruction were the nearby forced labor camps where we toiled under the harshest conditions. We prisoners celebrated the mighty display of Allied destruction, but the anxiety of our German overseers ran high. The railway was vital to the war efforts, and orders were issued to immediately repair the damage. The Germans decided to send a group of 12 Jewish slaves to begin the cleanup. I knew the work would be excruciating, but I hoped that perhaps I would find some food amidst the rubble, so I volunteered to go. We arrived at a scene of utter devastation. Freight cars lay on their sides, smoke rising from gaping holes. Stretches of railing were ripped off the ground and tossed aside in twisted heaps. Nearly every building suffered extensive damage. It was clear some of the cars were unrepairable. I managed to disappear between the rows of trains that were still upright. It took a while, but I eventually found a boxcar from Hungary loaded with wheat in burlap sacks. Wheat! And so close to Pesach. God had granted us a good start, but how could I possibly smuggle the wheat into the camp? I knew I did not have much time, and I needed to think of a way to bring in as much wheat as possible without the guards knowing. Lugging the sacks through the main gates didn't even occur to me. The wheat would be confiscated and I would be shot without a second thought. I rummaged around some more and discovered 2 pairs of pants. I put them on and cinched the bottoms around my ankles with some rope. I was then able to pour a small quantity of wheat into the space between the 2 pairs of pants. Once my legs were filled with as much wheat as I dared carry, I began the long walk back to the camp. The bombings left the Germans rattled and fearful, and for the initial days following the air raid, the inspection of prisoners at camp gates was enforced almost half-heartedly. I was thus able to smuggle in a fairly large amount of wheat. We had wheat, but what now? Rabbi Sender Dierenfeld, a fellow inmate, and a Belzer Chassid offered to hide the wheat, and amazingly, he managed to keep it away from the prying German eyes. Later, an old mill was procured from somewhere. We ground the wheat in the dead of night and, using a clean piece of cloth, sifted the flour from grit. Next, we needed fuel for a fire. During one stint in the field, I asked everyone to find a stick and carry it back to the camp. The branches were conspicuous and caught the attention of a German guard. He motioned me over. "Why is everyone with a stick?" "What difference does it make? People want to walk around with a stick," I answered. We had flour and we had fuel. We were ready to bake matzah. One night just before Passover, we set about baking matzah. Near the barracks door stood a prisoner standing guard with fearful eyes. We lit a fire under a metal can which functioned as our oven, and the matzah baking, under Nazi noses, began. Rabbi Yaakov and I mixed the flour and kneaded the dough. We worked quickly, not only because of the strict 18-minute limits, but also because of the ever-present danger of being caught. We ended up with 20 small matzahs. On Pesach Eve, after returning from work, our small group sat down for the Seder. On wooden slats around us lay sleeping bodies, exhausted from the relentless work. For those celebrating the hardships of the Holocaust in daily camp, life melted away as we experienced the biblical redemption from Egypt. Unable to sit for long, we each ate an olive-sized piece of matzah, the taste of tears mingling with the matzah crumbs in our mouths. We could not sit leisurely and recite the Haggadah, but in those moments we each prayed, more fervently than ever before or ever since, the words that still ring in my ears: next year in Jerusalem. Shabbat Shalom.